I'm Bhawna. This is Natasha. We are part of Community Design Agency, which is an organization of architects, engineers, artists, designers, community advocates, and business professionals who work alongside communities in the margins, addressing cultural and societal inequalities through the built environment. We drive social and spatial improvements through participatory planning, community-driven art, and design and architecture for those in need. And we're very happy. We're also one of the organizers of this UTC campus, and we're very happy to be part of this while also presenting. So thank you everyone to give us this opportunity. The theme language in the city seems so fitting because a lot of our work is around working with communities and coming up with a cohesive language which does not leave anybody out of its ambit. And this is what we would like to do today. We want to take you through stories of 4 communities we work with and how we've tried different approaches through in our work, in our tools, and how we also look at the built environment in different ways, and how as practitioners we have to keep pivoting, keep iterating our own approach in order to make sure that all communities get to have a say and get to have a seat at the table. So, Natasha, you want to...
Yeah. So just to kind of briefly introduce on the ways we've already employed and what we're going to share, we work in the areas of community development, redevelopment and rehabilitation, neighborhood regeneration and maintenance. And we're a diverse collective of people using the skills of architecture, placemaking, design, planning, and financial inclusion to do so. However, in our practice of working with the communities, we've realized that there's no way one dart is going to work. So we've tried multiple combinations of all of this to see what's working. And that's essentially been the language of inclusivity that we're trying to share with you today.
And we also want to share, these are not, we don't want to term them as successful projects. Yeah. These are our approaches. We have failed, we have gotten up, but we keep trying. So, this is a piece of our journey that we would like to present. And through this journey, we also want to capture the voices of the community, that through them, it's not only, it's also like a two-way process, that we have also learned from different communities. We learn from one community and we go and take those learnings into a different community. So it's a very holistic approach that way. And
so we would not have much time to get into the context of each project, but we're going to be sharing some anecdotes from each. One is from Nirame, which is about a home for a sex worker. The other is Sanjay Nagar, which is redeveloping a slum into adequate housing. There's Eco Work, a safe and dignified workspace for e-waste dismantlers. And then we want to end it with Govandi Arts Festival, a neighborhood regeneration program through an arts-based pedagogy.
So we'll dive into the first project. So Nirame was one of the first projects our studio did. It was about going into this really small community in Shevgaon. It's a small town in Ahmednagar district. It was actually led by one of our founders, Sandhya Naidu. She's basically leads our team at CDA. And it's a very, in India, I mean, sex workers, the moment you say the word, it is something that divides a room. And often the conversation always becomes about whether it should be legal, what are our views on sex workers, should they be allowed to work or not. And often we forget that these are women who work in very difficult conditions. They occupy spaces which are absolutely at the margins, and nobody is really talking about their built environment. And whether you have an opinion on what they do or not, at the end of the day, they're human beings, and every human being should have the right to a safe space to live, work, and play. And this was the approach that we wanted to go in with this project. So once the project was conceptualized, the first thing was, how do we get the women to start talking about what they need in their home? And as architects, we often, okay, take a pen and start drawing. But when we realize that a lot of women in this group have never even held a pen in their lives, and how will they even start visualizing their space when they're not even used to the tool that we're asking them to use to visualize their space? And then we thought that, what are the tools then that are close to their lives, with that they know, they use, they're comfortable with. And in India, I don't know if you're comfortable, if you know that a lot of women make these really elaborate rangolis. These are like in rice flour. They make these elaborate patterns outside their homes. So they're so familiar with that form. So using taking a leaf from that, we thought, why don't we give them chalk and thread and the tools that they're used to, they're familiar with, and let them have uh, visualize the spaces through those tools. And this is what happens, this is what happened when the moment they saw that, they were also able to visualize in that scale. When they were able to draw, okay, this much space we want, this is what we want, this is what we don't want. And through that, they were able to see a lot of things which they would not be able to say through pen and paper. I would want to share this one story, that almost everybody wanted a back door in the homes. And it was very interesting for us, that why are they asking for a back door. And then we found out that it was a red light districts and raids were becoming very common. And they said that in case there is a police raid, we would want a safe access outside of this space when we want to go. And we were like, okay, wow, like if you want that door, we'll give you that door. And so this was the space where the ground floor of this house was for this one sex worker to live and also practice her profession. And on the top, we made this communal space for all the women to get together. And even though they had so many commonalities, they lived on the same street, but they didn't have any space to come together. And now that they had the space, they really started looking at ways through which they can not just come together, but also improve themselves, look at different ways of looking at their lives. And the moment that space happened, a woman from outside the neighborhood, a nurse, took interest in teaching the women. And there's like, okay, fine, a lot of these women don't know how to read and write, and now do you have that space, why don't I come in and start teaching them. So that space sort of became that focal point of giving form to a community which was there already. But in those 3 days when they started coming into that room to study together, a lot started emerging. They started reading to each other, they started talking to each other, and they would really look forward to that time. And these are women who really have to be on the road every day for them to make money, and they would gladly take out 2 hours of their times to come and be with each other, not so much learn, but also to keep holding this community together that they found in this space.
Moving on to the next project. This project is quite different from the one Bhavna shared because of the demography. This is based on e-waste dismantlers, and we collaborated with EcoWork Association that invited us to do the participatory design and work with the e-waste dismantlers. So Delhi is not just the capital of India, but also the capital of where a lot of e-waste from India goes. And the business of e-waste has grown informally in the northeast of Delhi. And the way they're working, as you can see, is not supported by the government or anything. So they have just figured out their own frugal ways of working, which is also hazardous, not just to them, but their families. And they get no support from the government, while also they're working in residential areas, which is legally not allowed. So they're also, by the environmental board, they're also kind of pestered to move out. So they've started this business but have no future in this. So this was something that we wanted to address. If you can see, this is the way they've started the workspace. And the idea was, if there can be a way where we can give them safer and more dignified space to work. But that was something that was our idea. Like, what is our idea of dignity? What is our idea of safety? These are middle-aged men. They're Muslims majorly. And they're also heavily marginalized, but yet they have the privilege of running this business on their own because of the gender and because of the thing they hold within the neighborhood. So yes, apart from it being low light areas or a lot of scrap all over, it was also something we wanted to know that if tools and a safer space would really make a difference in their life. What happened with this one was that we usually have all the people that we're working with to come together and have a discussion, but this group was unique because they were daily wagers. Every hour that they spent working counted and made money. So we had to try a whole different approach with them, which meant really going door to door to every little dismantling unit and talking to them about what was their day like and what do you think as the future of your work's going to be like. And I want to share this little anecdote, which was like when I went, and I, as a young practitioner, the first thing they asked me was like, where is your boss? Where is your man, the man who runs this? Like, this cannot be, you can't be facilitating, because they also had to unlearn this thing that there's someone coming and talking to them about their future and asking them questions that are beyond, how much does this cost and can you sell this? So it was a very different way of exchange. Later on, we started to realize that we want to understand what is of most importance to them. Like, we think as designers that fixing the light or having a table and tools is what's going to work for them. But as soon as we were going into the space, one of the things that stood out for me in this exercise. So what we did in the exercise was we gave them flashcards with Hindi and English and some drawing around it. And it was around softer things and hard infrastructure things. So it was around, do you want a garden, or or do you want tools? And it was also like, would you like tea and coffee, etc., etc. And one of the things was prayer space. And in most of our engagement, people found prayer space to be, and respect to be, of important things, and they saw it as service. They said that this is something that is important to us, and for them later on everything felt important, but the first main thing was respect, prayer space, and our market basically means our people who we can still keep exchanging with. So we went door to door, and what happened with this is that a lot of people started seeing what's happening. So they came together and they started discussing. This was the first time when the dismantlers came together, not talking about the material as much as what it would mean to design a space like that, or what is what is it that is important to us. And it was also a great exchange. We went through a lot of lunches and dinners together. And I remember one thing, because in India at that time, there was a Citizen Amendment Act, which had a lot of, like, it was getting passed and we as citizens were protesting against it. And I remember that we were joining them in that protest as well. And that became an act of solidarity in such a way that they found more trust in us. And for us, it was just, this is just part of the process. It was not even a tool. It was just by being there for so long. And this was also a 1.5 year engagement, that we felt like we were friends, and hence very open about things that we wanted to share. And with middle-aged men, I have to say it took a lot of time to get them to unlearn certain ways of looking at things, and answer to us of what was your day like, and they'd be like, oh, my day was like this and my daughter was like that. And like, so yeah, the tool of just going door to door helped us a lot through these flashcards.
Excuse me, Natasha and Bhavna, we are a little short of time.
Yes.
You are running out. So if you can,
yes,
one more minute, please. Yes, thank you.
Then we should just.
I will just quickly. Can you give us 1 extra minute? Give us 2 minutes.
Yes, go for it.
So okay, I'll take you to this project called Sanjay Nagar. It's about redeveloping a slum. In India, we do not have great social housing projects. Government look at it at just stacking people on top of each other. They're not there. No services are being looked at. No social spaces are being looked at. And it's instead of rehabilitating people, the way social housing is looked at in the country is creating more problems. So we're trying to create a model housing project, and I would not talk much about. We'll leave you links where you can read more about the project. I would like to talk about how we went about going through. So when we started the project, it was going to be a community-led project. The first thing what we did is we formed a committee. We called it a slum committee, where we got like all these elder people from the community who would take decisions. but most of them were daily wagers. They were employed in certain, they were just not able to give time. And without giving time, they would not be empowered. They would not be able to, like, make decisions together. And it was very important for the project that the residents become an equal stakeholders and not just beneficiaries. So that's why we thought of this new idea of having community representatives and looking at young people who would become the bridge between us practitioners and the community. And this was the group of community representatives. These are youth from the Sanjay Nagar slum who have been working with us for now for last 3 years. And in this process of what has happened is that we were working with them. They were there with the social team, with the technical team, and we were just working. We didn't realize what was happening. And finally we understood during the COVID lockdown, when this entire team stood up and took over the entire the relief work by themselves. We were all in Bombay. This is in Ahmednagar, which is 6 hours away from Mumbai. It's a small city, and none of us could get out of our homes. We were just so helpless. And these community members went out every day getting ration from one place to the other, and they basically held their own community very closely. So these are just photos from the relief drive, which the CRs completely took over. And that's when we realized that, okay, how we look at housing is not just it's not the end goal. It's how you do it and how many people you empower, how many people you take along is what matters when you're designing, when you're working in certain communities. So we know we're running out of time. We
Yes,
want to
guys,
have,
we
like,
need to
last
wrap
one.
up. 10,
We
20 seconds,
will-
please.
So I mean, just because we have no time, we just want to jump into showing you a video. Having you love to watch it, so just give us a minute there. But this is about how we use art as a tool to bring people together, and it somehow was something that we were trying, but it seemed to have worked. And we're doing a festival around it. I would have loved to talk more about the pedagogy, but I'm just going to show it to you through glimpses of so this is our meeting with the youth where we're talking about safer spaces. And I just want to share this one example where we did this mapping exercise with the youth where we asked them to mark their safer spaces, and what came outstanding was that whatever places the boys marked as safe, the girls marked as unsafe. And this is when the conversation started between them also, what safety means. And then together we came up with a spot where we were like, okay, how do you then make it better? And there were multiple art workshops taken, and we had our local councillor also support this event. And this became a way for people to come together while also bring attention to infrastructural issues. And that brought a lot of stakeholders together. So I would have, this is one of the second murals we did. It says, Ye Hamara Ghar Hai, which means this is our home. And it was an entirely community-led thing. There are kids till now coming in and telling their parents, this is the part I painted. But just going to go into the festival.
We will share the video, Bhawna and Natasha. We will send it.
We're
Okay.
really sorry, Harvey.
Thank you.